Hello, and welcome to the third edition of Fullstack for Noobs, where Sally and myself walk you through how you can use the next generation of software tools, such as Kiro, to build a full stack application from scratch. So welcome, Sally, hello.
We have a bit of a setup and everything. So first of all, we were a bit late because of that, because today we're actually in the same room and we are going to build each other. So when I look at this direction, I'm actually looking at Ricardo right now. And we try to do the camera setup and everything in place. But it will be cool. It will be cool to operate from here all together. I'm really excited about this week. But before we move forward, let's see what you think about last week.
Yeah. Okay. So if we do have some audio gremlins, apologies. We are muting as we go along to try and reduce the cancellation. So in the first episode, we walked about we took a step back and we focused on intent. Okay, so what are we going to build? In the second episode, we switched to Sally starting the process of building the front end. Okay, and we looked at why we start from the front end. And in this episode, we're going to continue building the front end, building from what Sally started in the first one, which you can go back to previous episodes. Actually, what I did is, since the last video on Thursday, I actually followed the same instructions that Sally did, and I actually produced almost identical output. And obviously, in this non-deterministic era, it's not going to be exactly the same, but it's close, right? I got the same kind of game, the same layout, the same kind of similar Git commit. So Sally's steering file really did the business for me. So that's where we're at. We haven't done any more. We're at the stage where we left it at the end of the last episode. And so now we're going to kind of carry on and build it. So Sally, I'm going to hand it back to you. So again, if we do have any audio gremlins, apologies. We'll be muting and trying to manage that as best we can.
All right. So I'm really excited about this week because now we will hopefully see the game in action. Let me share my screen, and hopefully we will also see that my problems from last week with the screen sharing is fixed. I updated my version of macOS and everything, and I've been told it should fix everything. So I believe we are good to go. So right now, we already see what we have over here. We started off with the project. The first thing that we will do is to, of course, show you what we have built so far, which was a super basic game of guessing a number. The guessing a number game had happened. Okay, it's not here because the project is under another folder. Let me go to this. What's going on? I will just write it myself. I wanted to get lazy and use autocomplete, but it didn't work. Anyway, so right now, if we run the application, and let me open up my new window. So if I go to this, you can see that we have the number guessing game. It says like 1 to 100. So I'm just saying 500. It says write a valid one. 100 is too high. 5 is too low, and so on and so forth. I'm not going to waste any time by playing this game. The reason I built a game is because we told that we are going to build a game at the end of the day in our prompts. So the next thing that we will do is we will actually bring in the gaming logic. But before we move into the gaming logic, we have to understand what we are going to build. We will have tiles, and each tile is going to create a board together. So what I'm going to ask is, yes.
So I'm just going to jump in there, Sally. I'm going to put my hand up every time I want to speak. I'm going to put my hand up, okay? Because
here's the thing: you can mute me actually.
Oh, I can. I have the power.
You can jump in. Yeah.
Okay. So, because in the first episode, we kind of looked at what the game would look like actually from a kind of a graphical perspective. So I'm actually going to show and remind people what actually this looks like. So the idea is we want to build a game that looks something like this, right? So Sally, this is kind of like what we're aiming for, right? We've got kind of like, you know, some graphic assets, but again, these are more like ideas at this stage, right? We might want, you know, the AI coding assistants kind of like come up with an idea. So this is kind of like the tile-based game is kind of like going to look something like this, right? So let's just go back to that, and I'll stop sharing. Later
Later on when I cut the video, I think it will be perfect when this pause is just removed. But here's the cool part. I really like what you've done. We can do multiple things. One thing that we can do is to actually use your component, use your design as a component suggestion to the Curo, because Curo can accept not only prompts, but also the image helpers as well. However, I really don't want to pull in that full image and say, build me this. I want you to understand we will build components first, because for backend developers, component means something different. For front-end developers, every UI element that you see on the screen that is generally reusable, we call them components. A button is a component in your design system, for example. So when we build those tiles will be available for everything. For example, in case we want to use it for showcasing a reward, we can use the same tile, because from the perspective of the component, it is dumb. Like, it has no idea about what's going on and what's its purpose until we tell it to. Yes.
So okay. So if I understood right, okay, whilst if I'm, for example, maybe let's say a designer who's using Curo to kind of create a game, you wouldn't necessarily care about the full finished picture. You actually need to take that picture and try and decompose it into sort of the smallest components, which you called a component, which is what we're going to get React to actually build with this. Was it shadow something a library? So effectively, we need to start there and then trying to decompose that into the constituents. So a tile, which is a hexagon, maybe an icon that fits on there, maybe the background, the square it fits in. Those are the kind of things we're talking about, right?
Exactly. So from the perspective of the project, it is going to be a hexagon tile. It's not going to be called like board element or something. It's going to be a hexagon tile. It will have different color values and so on. We can even make it more granular. Like, we can just draw a shadow-oriented hexagon, and we can say that I will pass you in the color later on, and the color logic will come from the board as well. It's totally up to you to define and decide. From this perspective, what I'm going to do now is, it's up to you. Either I will design or.
So yeah, so it brings up a question for me. Obviously, you know, as a front end noob, right? So how can you use Curo to help you understand how to decompose and create components? So the idea is that obviously I know in my head what the game needs to look like, but I don't know how to maybe think about it from a component perspective. So is this something that we can use?
Absolutely. That is one of the great advantages of using actually AI coding assistants. You can provide your even slides. Like, you can pull in the PDF and put the slide and say, like, take the page 5 and create a design system for me. These are really great things. You can also use any other AI design tool. Like right now, for example, Figma is very getting somewhere. So you can put that into Figma and tell Figma to turn this into the design system. It will create a design system, and you can use the Curo powers and get the design system into the action as well. For us, the important point is, actually, it's about the software development as well, right? You have to create components that are usable. I'm not saying over-engineer, but at the end of the day, we will have maybe 50 tiles. Do we want to do a for loop and recreate everything all at once? Or do we want to define identities for the items that we have? So the system, so the drawing mechanism, your GPU, whatever you want to call it, your browser can take advantage of the mechanisms that has been provided to you by the framework to draw these efficiently. Because I always tell the same thing. We are very spoiled with our devices. Like, I have this, you have your phone, everything is super machine. And comparing to like maybe 10,000 of this, we went to moon. And now where we're at, like, we can run this is sometimes sad. We have to, yeah, unfortunately, we have to not over-engineer, but we have to think deeper. That is why instead of just throwing the design that you have here and tell AI to draw one by one, pixel by pixel, I do the opposite. So we will continue that way.
Awesome, sounds good. Let's carry on then.
All right. So first thing that I will do is to actually, we can do 3 things. You can send me the slide, and I will just take the component and pull it in and give some information. Or I can use my imagination as well. It's up to you.
Okay, I'm going to send it to you on Slack. Okay, I'm going to send you the image on Slack.
Okay, I will. Luckily, we don't share my screen, so that's good. Right now, both of us are muted, but we are working on to get you the design as soon as possible. I have my screen open here for Slack. Nice, nice, nice.
Upload from your computer. Okay.
Today we want to have, like, I want to have at the end the board mechanism directly in place. I want to have the components. I want to have different levels of questions, or maybe even a hovering logic to showcase a question just for the sake of having a tile. And I want to actually work towards moving step by step into the next ones as well. So for example, we will have the board. Whenever we click, the rest will be like faded. When you answer it, it will go to the next one. You can select and you say, everything that you would expect and everything that would make the user's lives easier. And everything here and everything that I mentioned, I am going to, let me download the design. I'm going to implement from the gamer perspective rather than someone else.
So while you're doing that, whilst you're getting the file, ready for it, I guess the thing I've got in my mind as a front end developer.
Let me mute myself.
Yeah,
you can mute me as well.
Okay, yeah. So, as a front end developer, how do you know how much information you need? Because obviously the border element is one thing, but you touched upon some things around, what happens when you hover over a tile? How does it interact? What does it, does it kind of like glow, or does it do something? Because that certainly is in the actual design, right? The design is, as you hover over a tile, it will expand so that there's some tactile feedback, and also it will play a little sound. But how far now do we need to worry about that, or can we think about that later?
I think with the AI right now, we complain a lot about SDLC, like software development lifecycle, that we forget about why it is there. And it is very important and valuable for us, for everyone. When we think about building software, we need to think about how we can make logical steps, and at the end of each step, what we have has a meaning. I don't since we are vibing, we are not spec-driven right now. I'm not going to mention anything about the hover effects and so on. Right now, my goal is simple. I want to draw hexagons that we see here, and I want to showcase it on my screen with 3, 4, 5 variants. That's it. And I want to do it in one iteration. So I need to explain to my ID in the most meaningful way.
Okay, let's do it then.
So first thing that I will do is I have the design here and I don't have my screen. So let me share my screen.
While Sally's sharing his screen, I'm going to be trying to follow along in my own IDE.
If you do a better job, I will be sad, Next week you won't see me. So right now, here's what I have. I have the design here. I just dropped it here. I will start off by saying that here is a design of the page that I have visioned for the game. I would like you to start off and start the development of it. Now that I'm thinking out loud, I'm thinking how I should tell this properly. When I do this alone, I don't care. I'm like, I can make dumb sentences and I know AI will understand what I mean.
Okay, so we said a few seconds ago that we're going to start off with just the tile, right? So are we asking it here just to create the tile, or are we asking it to create the...
Just the thing.
God, who knew audio could be so difficult in 2026? So so we talked about just creating the component tile. So in the prompt here, we've uploaded the whole design. We've said here's the design we want to build. Okay, we're going to start. Okay, so you're going to add this in the prompt. So that's awesome.
It says I can't unmute you.
Ah, okay. What? We are learning something new every day with StreamYard. So right now I added as an additional step. One thing that I will say is I will also mention the logic behind it as well. I will say like this and hexagon, like these are hexagon tiles, and we will implement hexagon tiles component. So with prompting, there are some best practices. One of them is like most important information is on the top. What you don't want to put it into a paragraph. You want to actually put it into, you can think in markdowns in a list on what you expect. And from most important to least important. So AI can keep the context window with proper information, so it can develop what you expect from it directly. All right, so right now I will continue writing what I have. So hexagon tiles. Each hexagon tile will have a color presentation of the question's difficulty. The hexagon design has a shadow inside it. Make sure to keep that shadow. I will just split this later on. Make sure to keep that shadow regardless of the tile color. So first of all, let me go up. So here are the specifications of the tile component. So first, each hexagon tile will have a color representation. Representation of the question's difficulty. The hexagon design has a shadow inside it. Make sure to keep that shadow regardless of the tile color. And after 2, we have 3. And afterwards, what else we can think of? Like we have the hexagon design, we have everything in place. And the hexagon tile will have a click and hover state on it. Click will open a window and hover will show a tooltip sort of element to give information about it. So this way we can about it. This way we can actually pass down this information from outside as well. And I don't want to think about the board. I'm still thinking about the tile. And yes, let me mute myself really quickly. And
so one of the other things when I look through the design spec, okay, so we spent some time thinking about kind of what the game might look like. The tiles have got different colors, as you said, for different levels of difficulty. They hover so that that gives a cue to the player to know which tiles they can play. And there's some audio feedback to make it more tactile. But we also have this concept of having like these icons, these like images that will also superimpose on the tiles, which will add the element of strategy. So it might be, for example, that you can play a joker, which will, before you play a tile, which is used as a multiplier. There might be one which basically is a random dice that gives you either a positive outcome or a negative outcome. There could be a time icon which gives you more time if you answer a question, that kind of thing. So we want to also feed that into the specification of the tile.
Besides the overlay logic, though, like besides having an overlay image or overlay visual component, I don't see anything extra about it, right? Because like this component should not know about Joker logic or anything at all. So in here, we will say add an overlay component that can be an icon or an image to show in specific situations. And right now we have like 4 elements. I want to give it a go. I don't want to waste a lot of time on this. I think we are in a good state. I will also add, after you implement the component, I want you to showcase it on the TSX, or like, let's say, main page.
So I actually copied most of your prompt and I submitted it before you had that last bit. So it's going to be interesting to see how they compare.
I think, let's see who is going to have it faster. Which model are you using? Are you using Opus as? Okay. This could be a nice option. Like, I think you were muted. You're using Auto.
So yeah, I tend to use Auto by default, right? The only time I'll switch to Opus is if I've trying to do something that's really complicated. I find that the Auto actually tends to be a really good default for most of the things I'm doing. If I'm Kiro credit conscious, you'll see at the bottom of Sally's screen there, Kiro Power. Kiro, you got lots of credits available, right? But you may have less than that, okay? Especially if you're using or just signed up for it, or using the free tier, you'll have a lot less. So making sure that you use the right model that's optimized and frugal for the activities you're doing is super important.
Yeah, absolutely. For me, everything is hard, so I just go with Opus because of that. Like, I really like, if I'm being honest, I just go with Opus with de facto. But if I look at this model selection that comes with the Pro, I think like Sonnet 4.5 would do a great job as well. Like, I know like there are many people out there, there are many developers out there has been and still using Sonnet 4.5 as well.
God, this passing the spoon, the audio spoon is quite instilling a discipline. Yeah. So Sally, in the second episode, you showed your steering file, okay, that had some good practices for doing this, okay, where we're creating the hexagons tiles or the components, okay, for React. Would you recommend, or is it a good idea to maybe put some specific steering documents in here, or do you not need to do those at the moment?
Normally, like, I don't know if right now I don't have any steering file that I can add, but I can think of adding some best practices or rules that we can have with it. Like, for this purpose, I could have also told, like, when you do this, use the React best practices, so it could follow the React best practices, Kiro Power that we have mentioned in the previous episodes as well. By the way, the implementation is done. Let's see what it did. And let's see how it looks like. Yeah, let me edit myself really quickly.
So mine is still going, right? It actually generated an error whilst it was building, but it's found the error. It's trying to fix it. It's going again for another build. But yeah, so it's actually now done the Git commit as well. So I think I'm close behind.
That thing, the error building, it's coming from steering files. I tell for React projects, do an npm run build so we can prevent any compile time errors before it's happening. All right, so let's see how this looks like. New window. Let's go. All right. Come on.
That's pretty good.
Come on. It already built the even the board system, it's a nice one. Like, we have easy, medium, hard with images and so on, and like nice. I think it's nice. Yeah. Every episode we have fun, and this is one of them.
Yeah, it is. So it's a good start, right? It's a good start. Now, obviously, if we're being hypercritical, the hexagons aren't aligned, so they look a bit odd, right? But as a good starting point, I think this is now interestingly. So when I first tried vibe coding this about I don't know, 2 months ago, I got exactly the same kind of like initial output from a vibe coding session. And what I found was really interesting, okay, is, you know, you already showed how to upload an image as part of the prompt. So what I found is that I, through the text, I could say, this is a good first start. Can you look at the alignment of the hexagons because they're not quite right? And I tried that and it didn't work great, right? It wasn't until I annotated the image and explained through annotating the image, that's when I got it to actually do a much better job.
Yeah, that is what I was going to say. Like for this kind of applications, here's what I've seen. Maybe I'm wrong, so you can correct me if I'm wrong, but like here is the problem with AI. AI tries to read your like images, your screen pixel by pixel. It doesn't have the visual understanding of the people, of course, normally. So from your perspective, things can look crooked, but actually from its perspective, they are where they should be, because just imagine you have like 192.0.1080 pixels, like multiplied by pixels in a screen, and you are saying that, you know, like this part that I don't know where the address is looks weird to me. And from AI, it says, no, like I want it to be that way. From its perspective, it is okay. So that this is a part that you have to know what you're talking about. This is the part, your intuition to, you know, like jump in and say, hey, like here's how you do, makes more sense.
So mine is still running. I still haven't. So, you know, yours was quite quick, right? But mine is. So it's actually finished writing the code. Now it's actually just doing the git commits, right? And it's asking me every single time. So if I do npm run dev, in theory, let's have a look. Obviously, if it works, I'll share my screen. If it doesn't, actually, even if it doesn't, I'll share my screen. But I just want to see what it kind of looks like. So, okay, so I'm going to share my screen now just so people can see the difference, right? How do I share my screen again? I need to stop screen. Okay, stop sharing screen. Share screen.
Ah, I can mute you. Okay, so in the meantime, if I want to talk, I can just make it cool. Like for me, make it cool.
I'm trying to find
And the tab for the game. Where is it? Where is it? Live stream quest. Is it actually? It's this one here. Yeah. So, so this is what I've got. So we can, if you can add it onto the screen. So you can see that it doesn't. It kind of animate. It kind of like hovers color wise, but it doesn't do the hover effect, right? So, you know, it's kind of like more. This is kind of like what you could, you know, what you could do. And actually, I quite like this. Actually, it's from a design perspective, it's all right. Okay, it's not quite like what it doesn't have the hover effect, but it's given me some with icon overlays, with disabled state, the grid pattern, which again is wrong. So, and the only thing that we've done differently, well, actually, my prompt was slightly different to yours. Okay, I didn't go to the detail of yours. And I forgot to do that last bit about show it in action, but it has actually shown it in action, right? And the only difference we've done really is slightly different prompt and auto versus Opus.
How many credits did you use?
So how many credits did I use? That's a good question. So let's have a look how many credits. So I used 3.4 credits.
I used 4.02.
So not that much different actually. So actually, you know what? The question is whether what is better, yours or mine? Right. So this is it. Question. You know, I don't know. I don't know what is better. But yeah, something to think about there, right? So let's carry on.
All right. So here is okay. I found the solution to our problem. If you mute me now, you can unmute me later.
Right, so we figured out something else, but I can now keep Sally quiet if I want to. But Sally, I'm going to pass it back to you so you can figure out what we're going to do.
Awesome. So this way, whenever you want to jump in, just jump in, and I can just know my place. So here's what I want to do next. I think I told you I'm a big fan of board games, and like Settlers of Catan is one of my favorite games that I played, and they have hexagon tiles in the game as well. And those hexagon tiles come together to make a big hexagon. I will do something crazy. I will just tell AI that I want you to create a board view looking like Settlers of Catan. And I'm not going to tell it to fix the alignment problem that we have over here. Like we already talked about this, but I'm not going to say, I will hope that by doing the Settlers of Catan, it will actually make it directly.
So just for people, I mean, I don't know what that game is, right? But for those people who do board games or from the past, right? My early days of RPG games on the Commodore 64, they were basically, interlocking hexagonal, which allow you as a player to know how to navigate a board, right? And typically it's one place you can move, sometimes more, depending on the game.
All right, so right now what we have here is, like from my perspective, it will just have a board. And I want to have a board logic, because right now I have the component in place, and for the game, I have the hexagon tile. For the UI, I have a different one. The reason is we're using ShotCN. ShotCN was the UI library that we decided to use for normal operations like buttons and so on to make our lives easier. And now what we will do is we will say, create a board view like the Settlers of Catan. By the way, the creator of the game is German, and it was really fun to learn because like a friend of mine actually worked on the mobile app of it. Anyway, super unnecessary information for everyone, but I love that game that much. With these hexagon tiles. However, we will do it with a twist. I want you to create a path and create a logic of path moving forward from left and is it left hand side or left hand side?
Left. Oh,
What is left hand side to the right hand side to start and finish a series of questions. I didn't create 1, 2, 3. I didn't create anything. I just want to keep it very basic. It's not perfect, but I'm really curious about the end result of it. Put this gaming board and gaming logic to the main page. All right, let's see what happens.
Okay, so I haven't typed that in. So at this point now, I'm not going to carry on. I'm going to get your prompts afterwards, Sally. Okay, and then see what I get. So we'll just because I should have been typing along there, but I didn't. So apologies.
I'm really curious how it will look like on your end, though. Like, let's see if this looks nice. Let's do that over there as well and see how one prompt can change different things.
So maybe you can copy and paste that prompt of yours in the Slack channel, and I'll see it. And actually, whilst you're doing that, okay, I do have a question, right? And I guess I think I know what the answer is, and that's because we've created components that on your side that the hexagon design. Because whilst it's okay, it's not really how I envisaged it, right? But that's not important, right? Because we can change that at any time. The kind of the look and feel of the hexagon is separate from the actual logic, right? So this is one of the reasons why you use components for that reason, right? Is that right?
Absolutely. Like, also, as I said, I want this to be as generic as possible because maybe we will like the design and everything, and maybe we are short on time. And for the initial version of it, we can make a button out of it and we can multi-purpose it. Like when I think of UI elements, UI components, I never think of pages. I never think of a project. I think of pieces that I can use. Though, like, in some projects of mine back in the days, we even had the logics that can be coupled into the UI components as well. So people can pull it off like in the design system library that we use with Shutsin and so on. So they can save a lot of time as well. We are done. Let's see what we can show. Yeah, okay. All right, I'm just, so this is not Catan looks like. Let me show what Settlers of Catan.
I tell you what, it might not be perfect, but it's a lot better than the previous one, right? So actually, the fact that you gave it a cue that to understand a board game that it might already know in the training data, right? I think that's a very good idea, because I think this, or just using that prompt in the times I've vibe coded this before, this has definitely been the best way of doing it. So sometimes trying to lean on something that it might, or the training data of the LM already knows, is a solid move. So that's a good tip. That
one thing that like, I wanted to imagine this kind of thing. This is the extension board, but overall this is what it looks like. But here's the crazy part, like that I really love. You see, I said like make a hexagon, but with the hexagon, it actually means the framing as well. It didn't care for framing. It actually used the internal inside of it. For me, it's like, it's smart. I like that it's smart. But I'm really curious how the gaming would be like. So we have the start and finish. So I click, it says, what is the correct answer? Sample question, what is 2 + 2? When you say correct answer, you see like we have 3 now like this. There are, of course, many things to do. For example, when I'm done, I want the other parts to that I didn't select to be faded as well. But let's continue and see what happens. Here is also something that is really nice, by the way. Oh, okay. No, we are not showing the screen. Oh my God. You missed the game, folks. Let me go back and act like it is the first time. So share screen. By the way, for this week, we are having problem with LinkedIn live stream. Apologies for that one. We will share the live stream later on. The StreamYard says it's from LinkedIn side, but we will share the live stream on that we have from YouTube later on LinkedIn as well. Anyway, this is the part that the game has generated, and you can select. One thing that I want to showcase is it also created some sample paths that you can follow along. And for each possible path, now you have the answers and you can just carry on. There are many work that we are going to be doing to make this better. As I said earlier on, like the previous ones that I didn't select should be faded out as well. But overall, I think we're in a good path, you know, like it's moving forward.
Yeah.
And I don't know what you think. Yeah, go ahead.
So I think it's really, really good. But my attempt also looks like it's produced something pretty interesting. So I'm going to share my screen just so that I'll stop your screen and add my screen, share screen, share live. And this is what this is what is created for me. So, you know, it's not too bad. You can see that although it kind of like, it's all, you've got these kind of like hidden dotted lines, right?
Same, I had the same
And
as well.
I click on one, it then says incorrect answer. So it hasn't actually given me it just, but it's like it's mimicking the game, right? Incorrect answer, try again. So it's actually mimicking correct answers and going from there. So, you know, it's actually, I've got to say, I think so far, look at that, I've won. Oh no, I've won. Nope, it's, I thought I'd won. I thought then, obviously he makes that last one. There we go. Congratulations, you've completed the quest. So actually,
Can you share a full screen because we don't see the
reaction
of the game?
Oh, we don't see the reaction of the game, right? Okay, so let's see if I can change that to, let's do stop, remove, stop screen, share screen, share entire screen, and just go straight for that. So here we go. So let's refresh this page. So this is the hexagon quest using auto model, right? So the frugal model, but here we got basically, it gives you some sample times when it actually generates an incorrect message, allowing you to navigate, which is, I think it's pretty cool, you know. And now look at that. Congratulations, I've completed the quest. So question is this more complete than your game. I don't know, but I'm pleased with it.
I want to talk.
I want to talk. Okay. From my point of view, this is better. The reason that this is better is because this feels like a game. The screen, the parts that I see on the screen feels like a game element to me rather than website elements. And of course, like it's far from being complete, and there are some parts that I liked, but the tiny touches that my site did is actually making some differences. For example, the custom window to show a question, for example, like, come on, these kind of things, they make the bigger difference. And you can select the wrong answer as well, then the rest of the competition is blocked too. But we don't pick winners here. We don't pick winners.
So you're right. Okay, I think actually from a more polished perspective, yours definitely looks much better. Okay, I think there's no question. I think mine definitely isn't as good, but I think I was surprised that I think I was surprised at what it generated. And actually, it's made me think maybe that design's better than what I had originally designed, and that actually leads to a key point, right? What we talked about in the first and second episodes of the show, right? Is that don't knock the value of vibe coding when you're trying these things, because they do open up, divergent kind of like ideas and thoughts that you actually might think, oh, you know what, I didn't think of that, but actually that's pretty good. So vibe coding is a really good way to open up those pathways and start thinking about differences that you might not have thought about that actually might improve overall what you're building.
Absolutely. But we are not there yet. Of course, all of these are joking. This is, of course, like surprisingly good, but it is far from where we want to be. So here are the next steps. Right now, I will ask you two options. One, do you want me to polish the gaming logic, like put the other parts, fade, and so on and so forth? Or do you want to build the question page on the right to, like create the end, like a code entry, multiple selections, and so on? Whatever you want to do, we will do it now and implement it immediately. Then we will tie all of them together.
So my gut tells me we should finish one thing before starting something else, right? So I think if we can create the board with the tiles, we know that we've got at least that piece as a component as a series of components. Okay, I'm not so worried about at the moment when you on your version it does pop up with something, right? I think that is separate. How you answer the question is separate from the board itself, right? And actually, so I look at this from the point of view of the board game is your overall state of the world, right? You have the board game, you have status information, you have help, and if we go back to what we're trying to build something that we can use at events. So there are some other aspects to this. So I think at this stage, let's get the board to a degree where we think that actually the board and the main playing screen is done. And then we can, because I think the question, how we do questions whilst related, I think actually is an overlay on this, right? I think there's two pieces, and your game actually shows that, right? When you press on a tile, it comes up that pop-up box, but we don't actually know yet what that looks like.
All right. So then here's what we are going to do. I will just open up my Cura again, and we will just write whatever it is missing first. Then we will turn that into a proper prompt to fix it at once. So let's go back and.
So I think the thing that we probably want to do maybe might be effective here is look at the game board in terms of either rows and columns, right? So I want X rows containing so many tiles, right? That might be the way. I mean, in the past when I've tried this, that has been the way that I've managed to influence the kind of the board layout, let's say, for example, from a prompt.
You go ahead, like tell me what is, for example, that is missing. I will just write this as a note on the screen and we will go through it to turn it into a proper thing. So I'm just, as if you're talking to, not as if you're actually talking to your, the person next to you, and you tell me and I will write it down.
Okay, so I think that's the first one, right? So the first one is basically the layout of or the structure. Okay, so we're looking at, and again, this is not hard code, but in the game we've kind of like got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We've got 7 columns of tiles, right? And they're split between 5 tiles, 4 tiles, 5 tiles, 4 tiles. So that's kind of how we want to structure the board, right? And there are reasons for this, right? We don't want the board too big because when we're playing the game, it's going to be timed. So we want it to be manageable within a certain amount of time, right? But we also want to make it varied so that there's enough complexity there to develop strategy. So at the moment, the game, you know, it kind of like goes in like tiles of 5, 4, 5, 4, 5. Maybe you want to change that slightly. Maybe start with 4, 5, 4, 5, 4, 5. I don't know. But overall, we're going to have, so I've actually got this in the design. I think overall there are 32 tiles in total, right? So we have these details. So, but the 32 tiles, if you think that on the left-hand side, you have to start. So you're only ever going to start once, right? So effectively it's 1 out of 5 tiles that you'll play. And at the end, you'll only finish on 1 tile. So again, it's 1 out of 5. So there are actually 22 playable tiles. So as a player plays, the maximum tiles you can play in the game is 22. The shortest path is going to be 7, right? Which means that gives the player now some options when it comes to them how they want to play the game. So I think in a nutshell, if we get that bit right, that's our first starting point. So that's the first detail. I think the second detail really is that as per the screenshot I shared with you, the game board needs to appear on the left-hand side within a frame, within a square. So that's the second thing. So we want to be able to position the board as I guess as a component within a component, or a component that contains other components, right? So that's the thing. And then the third thing is we want those holding boxes, right? So the holding boxes in the game I get in the screenshot I shared with you is called, I think, game banner, right? Where we have a logo, and again we can theme this, so leave it as a holding place for the moment. Information and help, which is the main thing which will display to the player that that we can give them information as they're playing the game. And then the bit at the bottom, which is the player details and status. So here it's like your name, maybe the avatar that you've chosen, and then points. Or time remaining, right? So that's the kind of those are I think the things that we need to do before I think we're ready to go to the questions, or how we then like ask the player the questions. So yeah, so you've got it here. And actually we didn't talk about this, but originally the game was just going to be you click on something and then you move, and you don't have a player piece, right? But then I thought it would be fun is if during the player setup, so when you give your name, you can select your own avatar, right? And then that appears, so on that screen you shared, that's what the Kiro ghost is, right? It allows the player to see where they are on the board. And it's a bit of a small thing, but I was showing this to a few people. They were young people, and they were saying, well, where's your player piece? You haven't got a player piece. And I thought, well, I'm not a really big player, so obviously you need a player piece, right? So that's where that came from. And obviously it's a really good potential use case of Gen AI, right? We can ask people to generate an avatar from a description, and then it will automatically generate your own avatar, right? Which might be a bit of fun as well. So that's pretty much what I think we need to do. Also, how about as your cursor moves around, the eyes follow. So it moves and bounces, and then as your cursor moves, it's following your eyes.
Let's, you know what? That is very challenging, but here's the thing. let's note it down and do it the last, because you know why? You know why is it? Because we don't have the resources that we have about Kiro is SVGs at best, PNGs and whatnot. SVGs are really great for animating and so on, so you can do path animations and we can use our imagination to actually make it work. So that is what I imagine immediately. PNGs and so on, besides the moving up and down and like having this fun animation, it would be a bit challenging. That being said, I'm all for it because it's like something that I really like about, for example, there's a Sticker Mule website, right? And when you go to the Sticker Mule website, one thing that I really like is the icon reacts to your operations. For example, when you write your password, it actually closes its eyes. And it's a very basic animation. You can see like there are two components that's just covering the eyes, but it looks so real and so fun. And I'm all for it. We just need to like, I think it will require probably a live stream of itself to talk in detail about this animation. So this is to be done, not to be defined, to be done for the next ones. So right now, you mentioned like, for example, this is a row for us. And but like 4 3 4 3 4 3 here, right? And it is like odd even. And here's what I told to Kira about this. I said it in the
So not 4 3, it's 5 4 5 4. So first is 5, then 4, then 5, then 4.
Am I not counting right? 1 2 3 4 1 1 2 3 1 2 3 4 1 2 3.
So that's row. I'm talking columns. Look at columns. Because I also had the same issue, right? And it's easier if you count columns rather than rows. Otherwise, because they're not all aligned, right? So this is what I found that from a prompting perspective, the system finds it harder to understand because it doesn't quite know what actually. Because a row is a straight line, right? A column is a straight line. So the only thing that's in a straight line here is the columns.
Perfect. Okay, then I changed it and it makes more sense to me. Now we defined, we will get lines of rows, lines of columns, and we will get a number of tiles per column. And this tiles per column will be defined as like, for example, if it's 6 6 5 6 5 or like 5 4 5 or whatever it is, we just gave this information. So this is in place. This is good. The next thing that we are missing from the game board logic is actually the framing you mentioned. So right now we have this frame over here, right? But we want it to be left aligned. So we want to move forward to a place that we will be actually coming closer to the general design. Here's what I think. I want to first do the general design of it, then fix the problems 5 4 5 or whatever it is next. What do you think? Does it make sense to you? All right. So here is what we will do. We can bring in the previous prompts, right? Yeah. So in one of our previous prompts, we have the design, and I will go back and say that. So we built the board. Everything is nice. We will call this thing game page. Now we will say we will. I want you to create the game page for me. One thing that I want to emphasize, I didn't say component. You can call that one. I don't, because I want to make a clear difference between what a component is and what a page is. Page is somewhere you navigate yourself into. Page is your part of your overall flow. Yeah.
So are those React terms, or are they just your terms? Are they Sally terms?
I've seen people using it as a app term, then a React term, or like Next.js or whatever this term. But from my point of view, they make sense as well. But like page is basically where you navigate. This is what we call. And component is everything that you see on the screen that has a meaningful presence. So, for example, from the Kira perspective, every informative thing, like this vibe here, the spec here, this tiny tiles, they are components. But when the page, everything's composition over here that I want to land, if it was triggered by the navigation, which gets triggered by the button here. It's a page order. Can you compose a page from multiple sub-pages? Yes, but then like it turns into more like, is it component? Then yes, you can component. But for me to pass the message better, what I say is that components are Lego pieces that you have. And imagine that you create a car. Then with another Lego pieces, you create a garage. You put the car into a garage. Then you create another composition at the end. But still, those are finished projects. This is what I do. Does it make sense? Or yeah. I try to keep things from the simplest perspective that I would understand, but I hope it makes sense. So in here, I say, I want you to create a game page for me. The game page design, I shared the game page design with you. We already have the game board in place. I want you to create the general layout of the page, fill in the placeholders, and make sure the game board is left aligned with related information. Also, for the banner information and what was it? Player details. Use mock data now. We will pass that information into the page as well. All right, let's see what happens.
So you bring up an interesting term there, navigation. So I think in the context of navigation, this isn't your typical like web page where the user gets to choose where they go, right? So you know, we're actually providing a highly, well, it's not a highly opinionated even, it's a on rails navigation experience, right? So it's always in our control, not the players, right? So I got to give an example. The first page is the splash page, right? The welcome page, the page to bring the player in. And there, the only thing they can do is either watch the page or click on the button on the right-hand side that says new game, right? That's it. That's all they can do. The new game brings the board up. The only thing they can do is interact with the board game to play the game, right? At which point then there's navigation, which is again is driven by the game board. Or at the end of the game time, it then basically finishes the game, which is the next navigation piece, right? That end game is then points and then return back to the front page. So the navigation in that perspective is we're not really we're not letting the player choose. We are, well, to within a degree, right? It's very much an, you know, it's within the game loop, right? So because in the past when I've done games, there's always an infinite game loop, right? And the game loop then basically brings you two different parts of the game, right? So that's how in my head I'm thinking of this. So how is that different to what you're talking about from a navigation perspective? So does that mean that we need to plan ahead of what those navigations are? Because we have, to a certain degree, in the design that I shared with you, we kind of know what those parts are. So a good example, what you said there, when a player plays a question, they can either play the question, they can either click on hint, or they can pass, which will return them back, right? So for some of these things that we know, and also within the game itself, the player can lock themselves into a dead end, right? So this is one of the things that I think, you can play a tiles game, but you might end up in a situation where you don't end up being able to move anywhere. So we need an exit count or finish game because you've messed up, right? So do we need to map those out first, right? Is it going to be helpful if we can create a mapping, and then what's the best format of that?
First of all, my sister just texted me saying that they didn't hear my voice because this was out of battery. I talked about so many cool things. Oh my God. I hope that you heard about the deep thinking part at least.
Maybe go back to the last, what you were talking about,
Yeah.
The navigation thing you were talking about.
Exactly. So why are we using navigation in this state? Navigation is important not only for deep linking and sharing a state that you're in with your fellow people, but it's actually about keeping track of the current state as well. I gave the username as an example. You want to get users to be able to make up for the mistakes and so on, but at the same time prevent them from doing additional steps. Like if they answer a question or if they see a question is hard, we don't want them to go back and select another one. We want to intervene. And as a follow-up, you ask, should we define or decide on all of these in advance? The answer is no, because this is, again, I think, trying to think about a car before we are making the wheel. We have to make the wheel, we have to make the engine, we have to bring all of them together. We need to think of, again, as SDLC as part of the car assembly line. We need to have the pieces first. Right now, we are making the pieces. It seems like we are making the game, but no, we are still making the pieces right now. That's why I didn't like the game page being in components, because it's not a component for me. It's part of an essential piece that is going to be used later on in the game. So at the end of the day, we will intervene every once in a while. We will do adjustments, but it is not going to be that way. Yeah. All right. So let me share my screen again, and we will continue with where we left off. So the good news is we actually created the application again. So let me open this up.
So I, again, I'm running behind. I didn't do anything, so I'll wait until you share that prompt with me, and I'll try again. But from now on, yours is the gold standard. So we're going to go down with the Sonnet, the Opus path, right? Because that seems to be doing some solid work at the moment.
I don't want to oversell it. I think we are in a good state. Of course, we will have some things that we want to do. Like, first of all, this needs to be centered. We need to have another layer of framing. But come on, these are nice. We have the Captain Jack, the score, the timing, and everything. I think we are in a good state. I think we are slowly bringing it all together. So how do you like it right now? What is your take? What do you,
So good, almost, but again, the board structure is not right yet. So let's now fix the board layout, right?
All right, let's go back to Kira. And with the Kira, we talked about earlier on, here are some things that the game board and logic is missing. And we will continue from the same chat. I'm not going to create a new one because the previous implementation wasn't perfect as well. So I will just change the priority of it. Yeah.
So that's a good point. Okay. So what you're doing, okay, is we're seeing Sally work from the same conversation, right? The same tab in Kiro. And if you're just starting out using these AI coding tools, okay, you might be thinking, when do I use the same chat window versus when do I use a new one, right? And it's important that all the stuff that Kira has done for us already is in that chat window. It's in the context window, which means that as we ask it to do things or change things, the change is going to be more relevant. Okay, it's going to know what it's already done. I've seen people kind of like do everything as a new chat, and then they get very varying degrees of output, right? So I just wanted to let you know that, you know, this is something that Shally is doing. Is working specifically in the same chat window for that reason.
All right. So first thing that I will do is to add number 1. This is actually going to be number 2, and the priority has changed. The first one is right now the game board is top left aligned. I want it to be center aligned. That game page and game board logic is okay. This is the first thing. The second thing that we are missing is, again, from the game page, is the framing. Outer frame from the design to contain all the game logic is missing. Third thing, layout and structure of the game board should accept a column rows number. Default value can be 5 for columns and 5 for rows.
So 5 columns. We want 5. Do we want 5 columns? Is it 5 columns? It's 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7. It's 7 columns. 7. It's 7 columns default.
Okay.
And I think what it is that within the columns, I think the way we should describe it is that in those columns there will be either 5 or 4 tiles. Sorry, yeah. so what we need to make sure is that there's 7 columns, but also for each column we tell explicitly how many tiles. So we shouldn't look at it from the point of view of rows, because I think that may confuse it, right? But a column and you know, the number of constituents within that column will be easier for it to understand because they're consistent, right? So it's always, as I think you've written in the one below that, right? So I think just to make it a little bit more specific.
Exactly. So we have only a column number, which is 7, and we have tiles per column. And we talked about a super basic logic of, for even numbers, it's going to be n number per column, and if it's odd, it's n-1. So right now we have 4 improvements in place. Let's continue with this one. One thing that I really feel reluctant of doing about AI agents, working with AI agents, is actually asking them to do 6,000 things at once. It might confuse them, not might, it will confuse them. Like, this is something we know. This is not something that we are thinking about. So I gave like 4 tasks for it. One is to fix the left alignment, create a frame, create a logic to do column and drawing. If it does that, actually, we will have something similar to what Ricardo has created earlier on. And once we have that, the next thing is polishing the game logic slowly. And actually, we will do even a better job than this. We will move the gaming logic into its own logic and state mechanism. Because right now, everything's happening inside component. And we hate bringing business logic inside the UI components. UI components needs to be dumped. Really, like, it cannot do operations. It can react to the operations. That is why they have state. If they have state, they can build on top of it. But they should not do the operations. The operations should happen through state management systems, and we will slowly incorporate into what we have as well.
So okay, so I think I get that, and that makes perfect sense, right? Separating the business logic from the UI logic, right? But when you mentioned, you know, you want to just basically capture what those state operations are. So I guess hover is one, right? Click a tile is another. is this something that as you start working with React or any front end mechanism, you start to see, like, the Matrix, Neo started seeing everything in numbers. Is this something that you need to start kind of like trying to decompose the world into?
It is.
It is actually. The reason is that we also work with the tools that is forcing us to think this way as well. When you work with even basic HTML, when you even use the basic HTML button, it has states as well. Like it has information. There is the on button, on hover things. And when you use CSS, you think like this as well. You define for a state for each element. On hover, show this color. On this, show this color, and so on. You have to think it like this because I think we are spoiled with the front end. And right now with AI in place, we are thinking everything is super easy, but it is not actually. It is very hard and complicated. There, like, as I go deeper into the world of front end or like mobile development, web development, whatever you want to call it, there are some things that we take it for granted, and we should appreciate more. Like one of them is text, for example. Text is freaking hard, and I didn't know about it until I worked on an open source library called Super Editor to create a rich text editor for Flutter. Because when we go to chat app, we are like, oh, Control B, it's easy. Let's do bold. Control I, italic. It's so hard to turn that bold into italic and think about drawing each element and thinking about the rendering mechanism behind it. That's crazy. That is why we are programmed to think this way. And that's why when I mention these stuff, I always think about what we can do next.
Okay, so I think your build is finished, but you've not your sharing has kind of gone again. So let's see what's happened.
Let's see. So let me run this one again. I'm really excited. Ta-dam. Okay.
Drum roll, please.
Ah. Oh my God. So of course there are some mistakes. One is we said the default value should be like 5 tasks per column. And it is not drawing as a column. Like it actually draws rows. And of course, the alignment is broken because of that as well. Positive side, the alignment is working. But the problem here is it actually tried to fill the space that is available. And again, AI is not perfect, right? No, we do not want to fill the available space. We want to draw columns. And we want to make sure that it follows along that process. Yeah.
So what you're seeing here is exactly the kind of the loop of doom I kind of got into, right? Where I was trying to, through the prompt, kind of get it to do this, right? So in the end, the only way I was able to do it is, first of all, focus on columns as opposed to rows and columns. But then also provide an image that showed the kind of structure of the column. So I think I've got an image. Let me see if I can find the image. Maybe I haven't got the image anymore. No, I think I used to have the image.
I want to try something though.
One thing that I want to try is, so we learned something from the previous implementations, and we know AI is not fully deterministic. We are fine with it. One problem that I see is maybe we can go deeper and explain better as well. Let's go and try to fix it without the image. Let's try to tell it step by step how it should think. First of all, we see the mistakes that it does. We will tell it, there's something called negative prompting. Negative prompting is you just give negative input. So you put restrictions to the agent or to the AI. So it does not do it. It's like you give them extra laws to follow along. It's not like the laws of robotics from iRobot, but it's more simple ones. But
so let's do that then. Let's fix this, and then because we're coming up to time, we've got about 10 minutes left.
All right.
Right. So this is going to be the last thing we do before we wrap up for this episode. But we will be back next week on the same time, Tuesdays and Thursdays. We'll be carrying on this. So basically, let's take it away, Sally.
All right. So let's start with. I will continue with the same chat, by the way, because this is still around layouting and we are still not able to fix what we need. So first thing that we will do is to tell what it did wrong. So I would say, first of all, there are some issues with the implementation. All right, first thing that we will tell is the game board page is not left center aligned. It is filling the available space. It should wrap the content and position itself at left center part of the screen. I want to do an explanation here. Wrap content is a term. Wrap content is based, like it's self-explanatory, but it actually allows you to say that whatever I have in, like generally when you draw something, you the children is aware of parent, but parent is not aware of children. Children, by children, I mean the components inside another component. They know the available space that they have, but they do not know the available space provider doesn't know what's going on inside. And here, what I say is make sure you always keep yourself in the minimum height. Do not give any provided UI areas to the others. This is again coming from like all of the UI things that you see, including apps to the web things. The second thing that we will do is,
You must share.
yeah, this problem is not fixed. Let's see.
So we've got a question as well
whilst
we're doing that. So we just got a question whilst we're doing that. So I was hoping you writing this using Flutter. Is Claude good for writing similar games using Flutter? So I don't know Flutter. So Sally, I'm going to pass that one over to you.
I mean, from my point of view, right now with AI-driven development in place, I think Flutter is in a very good spot as well. Flutter has an official MCP server for Dart and Flutter as well, so you can bring that into the cloud as well. It depends on your like model too, but I've seen from my fellow Flutter developers that they love cloud models. They use Haiku a lot. Like I've seen a lot of praise around 4.5 Haiku. Sorry, Opus, not Haiku. Opus a lot. Haiku is great as well for like text and everything, but for creating apps, people are literally in love with Opus. So if you're using cloud model or cloud code, whatever AI, or Kiro, exactly. And this is what we do here. You can use Cloud Opus 4.5 to build it, but make sure you have the right context. And the context right now for Flutter is created by MCP. And make sure that you have everything in place. That being said, let's go back to screen.
So yeah, thanks for the question. Because we have to wrap up in 5 minutes, so we're gonna get Sally on turbo mode whilst he finishes getting the board properly fixed.
When you draw the board, make sure you draw it column by column. Also, with the previous implementation, the alignment of the here's the problem here again. Columns are not aware of each other. That is why they cannot align. But I will again use the Catan example here and say like use the Catan logic to align the columns.
So I was actually going to suggest that it seemed to be that when you mentioned the game of Katana, it actually understood that the layout. So I think that's what we should key on, right? Use that as the layout style should be like Katana, but we want the style. We want column. We want 7 columns with 5 and 4. So it's a square shape rather than hexagon shape.
Use that logic again. Okay, I will just run this and we will see what happens. If it doesn't happen, we will have next week to fix this anyway. But like, I'm really hopeful that these 2 general problems, we can fix it as well. And by the way, I want to thank for the question again. It's really better when we have other people chiming in, asking questions and so on. This is why we have
this platform. Like right now, I talk a lot, I know, but the goal is to pull everyone in and make this live stream, cool.
Yeah, and maybe if people Sim86, maybe you feel sufficiently inspired to try and build your own version of this hexagon quiz game in Flutter, and then let us know how you get on and share some screenshots.
Yeah, maybe we can even give some spot in the live stream to them as well. Like they can share their learnings and so on. Like who knows? This is a free platform for us.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you are following along and you have created something, then drop Sally or myself a message, and we'll invite you on to the next whichever episode works for you, and you can walk us through what you've done and do a show and tell. That'd be awesome.
All right, so it says got it ready for your next request. Okay, let's see if you actually did it. I'm running this again. This is the last iteration we will see, then we will call it off. I really hope it did something better. 3, 2, 1. And it's like no. Like the left alignment should be for the game board. This is why I didn't like it when it put it to the components, because when I say game board, it understood game page.
Okay, but it is slightly better, right? It's slightly better in some respects, but it's just, it's not quite right there. It's not quite right. So, because we do have to wrap up, unfortunately. So this is a good. It's like the kind of the suspense moment, right, at the end, bringing you into the next episode, right, and how we fix this, right. So, see it. We'll be back on Tuesday next week on YouTube, on Twitch, and hopefully back on LinkedIn. So with that, we'll see you then. Thanks for watching, and stay safe until then.